Hey all, did you know that failure can serve as the secret sauce in generative AI strategy for associations? Don't believe me? Focus on experimentation. Experimentation is key for adopting generative AI effectively in association contexts. Repeating iterative experimental process, that is what is necessary for association leaders and board members to effectively integrate generative AI and get it used successfully by association staff and volunteers alike. So you need to view failure, which is an inevitable part of experimentation. You can't have good experimentation without failure. You need to view it as integral to integrating generative AI. So, thinking about failure, if you have 0 shots on goal, you'll fail 0 times, but you'll also succeed 0 times. If you have shots on goal, you'll inevitably miss some of them or have some of them blocked. So that's the key. That's how you want to be thinking about this. However, I've seen associations often be cautious. They're managing risks. Spending money on generative AI is expensive. Spending money on generative AI consultants is expensive. Spending money and reputational risks of staff time is expensive. So the money with staff time and reputational risk of poor generative AI integration, that can be expensive. But if you aren't going to experiment, you're not really going to get the results that you need to get. So leadership, association leadership, whether it's association executives or board members, must model risk-taking and celebrate learning from setbacks. In fact, research by McKinsey shows that strong innovators succeed 45% of the time in digital transformations. So less than half the time, and that's important to note, but weak innovators only succeed 21% of the time in digital transformation, so 1/5 of the time, much less often. So you want to be a strong innovator and you'll succeed more often, but you'll still fail over half the time. So you want to think about succeeding and failing, and of course strong innovators, they more often take shots at goal. Overall, they're more successful. As you think about innovation, make sure that you are thinking of having an approach to dealing with failure. A good approach is a post-mortem analysis. So it's a constructive analysis that avoids blame and builds institutional knowledge. Look at, maybe you had some data gaps, maybe you had some in training generative AI, maybe you had some issues with the team, that you didn't have the right team together, maybe you had poor organizational alignment, whatever it might be. Have shared findings around what you learned, around what went wrong, to be transparent and have continuous improvement. And that systematized post-mortem will transform failure into actionable insights. So that's what you want to do. And that you want, as part of that, you want to provide people with psychological safety, which, as my friend Amy Edmondson talks about, is the ability to fail and learn and not be punished for failing and learning. If you fail doing the same thing and make the same mistakes over and over again, yes, that's an appropriate time to penalize someone. But if you're failing, you're taking a risk and learning, that's a time to celebrate someone. People need psychological safety if they're going to innovate. I'll give you a case study where I consulted with a mid-sized national association of about 25 staff to enhance member communication. And so we started by developing a generative AI pilot to personalized email outreach to member segments. We sent it to about 5% of the member database, the whole database, so not a large segment. We'll launch the campaign focusing on member-specific data like career stage and interests, and we had mechanisms to analyze the outcomes, and we wanted to learn from what we did. The initial campaign did not perform as well as we would have liked. The open rates were 10%, which was about the same as previously for the association, and click-throughs were 2%, which were also just a little higher than previously for the association. So we looked at a post-mortem analysis, and what we found was that there was some segmentation gaps. So the segmentation wasn't as good as it could have been. We didn't have as fine-grained data as we could have, which we eventually did get. And also the generative AI tone was a little bit more formal than ideal, and so we revised the tone. And that increased open rates to 15% and click-through rates to 4%. So 50% improvement in open rates and 100% improvement in click-through rates. That was great. and it saved 25% annually for more efficient and targeted communication. So that was a savings from that campaign going forward. Also, we started integrating other generative AI campaigns that over the course of a year saved the association about $120,000. That was very nice. More broadly, it positioned the association to be a leader in its industry in integrating generative AI. So, as you're thinking about your own association, make sure to create a collaborative and psychologically safe culture for innovation. Have an approach to shared learning to accelerate progress and reduce repeated mistakes. So, of course, shared learning, talked about the post-mortem analysis, where you share the learning with everyone. Effective tools for this approach include forums for post-mortem analysis, peer networks where you share information with each other, and innovation sandboxes where people have an opportunity to learn to experiment without too much reputational or financial risk. So, you as a leader, association leader, need to frame failure as an opportunity for growth and empower your team to innovate freely. And that's what will set you up for a successful generative AI adoption. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Future Ready Association. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel wherever you checked it out, and send me any questions at gleb@disasteravoidanceexperts.com. Again, my email is gleb@disasteravoidanceexperts.com.